Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was always overpowered? OP Naruto, massive character bashing, chaos in Konoha, Naruto times Hinata times Ino times Sakura times Anko times Tsunade times Shizune times Tamari times Tenten times Kurenai times Yugao times Mei times Konan times Karen times Yugito times Samui times Mabui times Fu times Ayame times OC Ultimate Infinite Harem, Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. It was another beginning to another long dragged out day. Or at least that's what I would be thinking had it not been for Naruto-kun's enlightenment yesterday evening. I still can't believe I never thought of using shadow clones for such trivial tasks such as paperwork. As soon as I came in I made 4 shadow clones and put them to work, which they are doing right now, all 4 behind my desk working away, while I myself am sitting with my feet up, pipe in hand and mouth enjoying the latest copy of my student's greatest work Ika Ika, Paradise. I had been so swamped with paperwork for the past 6 months, no the past 15 years, I hadn't had any time to myself, hence no time to read. Come to think of it, the influx of paperwork started just days after Naruto's birth, when the village was just getting back on its feet after the demon fox attack, and a lot of them were new law requests trying somehow to shun Naruto who wasn't even a week old, others were calls for him to be killed immediately, in order to kill the fox. I rejected them of course, but that didn't stop them from resubmitting, well until I passed the 5 times submission law, then I think the paperwork cut by half after a week. This village seriously needs a wake-up call, and I think whatever Naruto has planned he's going to give it one hell of a big one. I just hope I live long enough to see it. As I'm reading the door is knocked on rapidly. Crap, maybe if I just ignore them they'll go away. The knocking continues. Damn walk-ins, it's not even business hours yet, go away. The knocking continues. I sigh and look at the door glaring at it daring the sound to come again, but it does. I close my book and slip it back into my robe before I go to answer it. But then the knock happens again louder and faster like someone is pounding on the door. Damn disrespectful bastards, come in. I snap now irritated. The door opens and in come 2 faces I'd rather not see, Homura and Kaharu. Homura gray hair, a beard, glasses as well as a constant frown that he's always worn, even in his youth. He also has a strong jawline, a facial structure he has retained even in his old age. As a member of the council, he wears similar robes to those that I wear, except in a gray and white instead of red and white. Kaharu, her hair is pulled back in a twin bun locked by a traditional hairpin with 2 pearls dangling off the side, but without the bangs she once had in her youth. The pearls on her hair needle have also increased and tassels were added to the other end. Her earrings are also considerably longer. As a member of the council, she wears a simple long kimono, closed by an obi, a jacket, and a sash over it. I have noticed over the years she's taken to squinting, barely opening her eyes at any point in time. I find it rather disturbing sometimes. I can never tell where she's looking if she even is. I clench my fist slightly at the sight of my 2 former teammates knowing what it lightly as they want. I narrow my glare and their scowls disappear. They are here for either one of 2 reasons. 1. Seeking more power for that damn stuck-up Uchiha brat. Well, they can forget that. I've given him plenty and I even went so far as to allow them to place him on Kakashi's squad so that he could be trained under him. Seeing as he's the last one in this village with a Sharingan, it was the logical move. But if they think I'm giving him any more, they have another thing coming. The only other reason they would come to me would be something to do with Naruto, or something trivial that he has done like walked on the wrong side of the street. His alarm was too loud, it was disturbing the peace, some fool had earned his wrath and was pranked. To be quite honest, I'm sick of their constant bickering about these matters. The only reason I put up with them is because they were my teammates and the only reminders I have of Hashirama-sensei and Tobirama-sensei. If they were anyone else I'd have them chased out of this office faster than a radiant lightning jutsu. Yes. What is it, you two? It's not even business hours yet. What is so important that you couldn't have given me another 2 hours before knocking on my door? I ask, making sure my point comes across in my tone. I'm miffed. Oh, forgive us, Hokage-sama, but you see, there is a matter that has come to our attention that we feel you should be informed about. Koharu speaks rather formally. Well then, have out with it and leave me be, I snap, wanting them to get to the point already. If it's not asking for something for the Uchiha, then it's about Naruto. Yes, Hokage-sama, you see, it has come to our attention, from concerned citizens, that one Naruto Uzumaki has been seen breaking into the property of the deceased Yondaime Hokage, not just once but on 2 separate occasions, and we have it on good authority that he is currently there right now, Homura informs me. We have come to request that you dispatch shinobi to the estate and have the boy forcibly removed and imprisoned for entering and defiling such a prestigious building. Kami-sama only knows what he is doing in there. He must be removed before he damages the Yondaime's legacy, Koharu adds. Oh, what a load of rubbish. In short, someone told you two they saw Naruto going into the Namikaze, Uzumaki estate, and now you two want me to have him removed and imprisoned while you two waltz in and start pulling all you can take and most likely lay it at your damn precious Uchiha's feet while the other one kisses his and whispers sweet words in his ears. Well, no chance, but since you want to play a game, I guess I'll play. Well, since you want an immediate response, I shall give you one. No. The looks on their faces were priceless. They obviously weren't expecting me to say that it's at times like this that I wish I had a camera handy to preserve the memory. Hokage-sama, you must do something before that brat destroys something of importance to the village, Koharu speaks, almost slipping up. Yes, Hokage-sama, you must. For all we know, he's in there destroying all of the Yondaime's possessions, Homura adds. I glared at them, almost slipping up, but then I simply chuckled as I take another drag of my pipe, seeing their eyes twitch through my smoke. I can assure you he is doing no such thing. It would not make any sense, seeing as that property and all its contents, as of 1 p.m. yesterday, all belonged him. I say calmly and watch their reactions. Another I wish I had a camera moment. Because at that moment it looked like all the blood drained from my former teammates' faces, as they tried to comprehend what I had just informed them of. I simply arose from my seat and walked over to my safe and pumped the correct amount of chakra into the hole before opening the cast iron door and took out my copy of the deed to the estate and laid it out flat on the table before them both. And once again it was another camera needed moment, as it looked like their eyes would pop out of their skulls when they read Naruto's signature on the bottom of the deed. Well, except Koharu, she still looks as old as ever. So as you can see, everything is quite legal. Naruto is simply coming and going from his new property, nothing to worry about. I smiled with a big shit-eating grin on my face. SARATOBI 1 old windbags 0 feet. After finally finding the ability to speak again, Koharu asked, how is this possible? This deed has been missing for 15 years along with the rest of the Yondaime's estate, and now all of a sudden it turns up and that boy has signed it. Where has it been all this time? I narrowed my glare, catching her tone. When she mentioned Naruto, just slip up once, you old bat, just once, and I'll have you dangling from the roof by those earrings of yours. Sensei be damned. I then spoke. It's quite simple actually. It's been in my possession this whole time. As a fellow Hokage, I felt it was necessary to keep the Yondaime's possessions and funds in check so that they did not fall into less desirable hands. SARATOBI 2 old windbags and now civilian council 0. Then how is it that the boy is now the new owner of his estate if the deed was in your possession the whole time? Homura finally spoke, inspecting the deed. I simply chuckled at the statement. I would have thought that would have been obvious. I gave it to him, as a fellow shinobi of the leaf. Hokage-sama, why would you do such a thing? Nothing good can come from that brat, owning everything the Yondaime held dear. Surely it could go to someone more worthy, Koharu said, eyes widening a fraction. Yes, I agree. Sasuke-sama could make much better use of the knowledge within those walls, and it would only help to make the Uchiha clan stronger upon their resurrections in the foot. Homura started but was cut off when I blasted the entire room with murderous intent, my fists clenched and my patience all but lost with these two as I released wave after wave of pressure. Why I did this was simple. I was doing what I thought my fellow Hokage would want. It was his wish that Naruto-kun be viewed as a hero by this village by holding the Kyuubi within him, but I can see all too well that that wish has not come to pass, that he has been treated terribly by a village full of ingrates and fools who don't know what they're talking about. Minato viewed Naruto as a hero and as such a feel that he would want not only his estate but all his possessions to go to him, as he has no children left for them to go to. I stood up, glaring daggers at the two of them. Now, as for your suggestion that they should have gone to that Uchiha brat, never will I allow such a disgrace to come to pass. That brat has been spoiled by this village for far too long. He has become arrogant and his ego has become bigger than the Hokage monument, and to fuel it more by giving him access to the Yondaime's techniques and legacy would be nothing but an insult to everything the Minato stood for. Now get out of my office and do not come to me with such trivial matters and baseless accusations again, lest I have you thrown from the top of the village walls with chains round your necks. Sensei be damned. Get out now. I yelled in anger. Hearing that the two of them ran out of my office at speeds that would put Minato's Hiraishin to shame, I turned to the window and scowled, looking at the village below. Screw waiting for Naruto to give this village a wake-up call. I'm going to get the ball rolling with the council, but I'll need a list of what to hit the council with first. Naruto should know what needs fixing first. Neko-chan, I called, and as I did, my female Anbu aide appeared out of thin air, kneeling by my side, wearing her white Anbu cat mask. Hi Hokage-sama, she said, head bowed, waiting for my orders. I have two tasks for you. One, inform each clan head and civilian councilors that there will be a council meeting 5:30 sharp this afternoon. Inform them that there are many matters that have just come to my attention that need to be fixed, so tell them to prepare for a long night. And get a hold of Danzo as well. That old war hawk should be involved in this as well. Some of the matter will defiantly involve him and he might actually crack a smile for once. I joke, still looking out at the village below. Hi Hokage-sama. I close my eyes. And the next is to be done after you have accomplished that. Find Naruto-kun and inform him I wish to speak with him before this meeting. Tell him I will be bringing his issues to the clan heads and council today, and that I wish to get the main ones listed beforehand, that it is of the utmost urgency. I finish. Hi Hokage-sama, they will be done, she says before disappearing in a shunshin of purple leaves. I put my pipe to my mouth and take a drag before holding it for a few seconds and exhaling as I feel I calming my nerves. Those two are always trying something. I don't know how Tobirama-sensei put up with us three for so long. I took another mouthful and exhales as I smirked. Well, the time has come to clean house. To hell with what the civilians think. This is a shinobi village. They can either like it or go somewhere else. Bunch of ungrateful shits. O and SARATOBI 3COUNCIL 0, game set and match. Meanwhile, Naruto's home, Naruto's POV. I had arrived at my family home and was on the second floor as I make his way to the set of double doors at the far end of the hallway. As I place my hands on them and push them open, inside was an emperor-size bed with a wooden frame and canopy with a large shag carpet under and around it, with tiled wooden flooring throughout the rest of the room. There was a walk-in closet to the side with a large bookcase beside it. On the other side of the room was a large bathroom. I walked into the room and held onto one of the bedposts as I took a breath slowly, before looking at the picture on the bedside table. It was of them when they were younger. I walked over and lifted it up as I smiled and ran my fingers over it. I took a quick breath and set it down. I can't start crying again today. Now is not the time. I have to get over it already. Then I felt a breeze come from my left. I looked over to the bookcase against the wall. I walked over to it as he felt another breeze. There's a room behind this bookcase. Partner, there's a hidden vault behind there. The trigger for opening it is a wire pull switch under the second shelf down. I remember your mother watching as your father installed it. I mentally nodded as I felt up under the shelf and pulled the wire underneath as the latch opened and the bookcase pushed back and across, showing a doorway. Here we go. I walked inside to see two chests, one with the Uzumaki crest and the other with the Namikaze crest. Both looked extremely old. I walked forward and opened both, showing them filled with multiple scrolls. Some looked worn, others looked like they hadn't been touched in centuries. The clan jutsu, the future of the clans are here. I smiled and reached for them as looked them through. But then a bell rang and I looked around. Kurama, what is that? It's the specialized security seals that your father designed and installed, partner. Someone is trying to force their way onto the property. I narrowed my glare, hearing that, as closed the chests and walked out of the safe before flipping the switch on the way past, sealing it again, before making my way down the stairs, flipping another switch to stop the bell as I bolted straight to the front to see who it was. I opened the first gate and walked through to find myself looking at two very irritated elders. Oh well, if it isn't the two oldest fossils from the, oh so grand civilian council. I wonder what they want. Not. I smirked. Good morning, counselors, and just what is it I can do for you this fine morning? I chuckled slightly, while I was laughing my head off inside, along with Kurama, and a chibi-me started mooning them as he shook his at them. They scowled at my smug attitude. Well, for starters, we want into this property, brat. Now open this gate immediately. The old crone snapped. Hearing their tone, my smug attitude disappeared and was replaced with a scowl equally as dark as I walked up to the gate, stopping mere inches from it. Glaring daggers. For starters, you have no right to order me to do anything. This property is legally mine and I am within my rights as both a citizen of this village and a shinobi of this leaf, to refuse anyone entry onto a property that I own. And, counselors, may I also remind you, as a shinobi of this village, I am within my rights to defend this property from any and all who try to attempt to enter it without my permission, and also as a shinobi only the Hokage's orders to me are absolute, so I suggest you leave now unless you have a written order from the Hokage ordering me to let you in, because as long as I'm alive, that's the only way in hell you're getting in here. Nice bluff, partner. Well, I still have my real genin test to do, but they don't know that. I mentally grinned, but still scowling on the outside. How dare you speak to us like that, you demon brat? We are counselors of this village. We have every right to order you to do something. Now let us in before we drag you in front of the rest of the council and have you imprisoned for the rest of your life, the old crone screeched again. I think you're missing something, counselor, I said while tapping my headband. I'm a shinobi of the leaf. A civilian council holds no power over military personnel. I think you need to review the village hierarchy again. Anything with civilian in the name falls under anything with shinobi in it. Just to help you remember, I put my hand on the gate to open it. Now stand aside, I have to be going now. Shinobi business. I grinned as he opened the gate, only to have the old crone to grab it and try to force her way in. But no sooner had she tried, she found herself screaming in pain as I slammed it back again, catching her fingers. Ah! She screamed as she pulled back, clutching her hand. Yep, those knuckles are broken. Broken, huh? Shattered, more like nice one, partner. I just ignored it and walked through, closing it behind me before turning around with my most surprised face on. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand there. Then I just shrugged, surprise face gone. My bad. But anyway, I need to be going now. Shinobi business, you understand. Do have a nice day, counselors, I said as I walked away, not feeling one bit of remorse for the old bat. I'd get that hand checked out if I were you, counselor. It looks like it may bruise, I said before forming a hand sign and disappearing in a shunshin, leaving them scowling. Scene break. Top of Naruto's old apartment building. I landed on the roof and looks around, taking in the air before looking at the sun to judge the time. About 9 o'clock. Kakashi is likely to be arriving at the training grounds in the next hour or so. Better get set up for the day. I closed my eyes. Ims-chan, can you hear me? Hi. Naruto-sama, I can. What can I do for you? I may need your assistance today. For a test, it's time for you to make your debut. Report to training ground 7 within the hour. But remain hidden until I call for you. Contact me telepathically when you've arrived, and tell my little hubby Chan, I'll see her soon. Hi. I look forward to seeing you again, Naruto-sama. And I you, my little wolf. I opened my eyes as I turned and closed them again, concentrating, and then 10 copies of me form in front of me out of smoke. Finally, looks like I've got the Kage Bunshin mastered. Finally, that one took ages. How long's it been? Just a little under 4 years. Give or take a month. It was the first jutsu I taught you after finding the safe house. Yay, for some reason it took me longer to master than some or the others. It is B class, partner. Anything above C takes a while. I mentally nod and then look to my clones. Alright, you all know what to do. Errands need running. I point to the first three. Forest of Death. Damn spiders need killing. Can't let them think I'm going soft. Make 100 clones each when you're there and then get killing. Next three. You three. Clean up the old apartment and start making repairs to the inside and outside, and then begin working through the other apartments. I want this place in top shape. I plan on asking Gigi if I can have this place and rent apartments out under a fake name to try and make some extra cash. After 6 years of overpaying on rent, I should have bought this place 5 times over by now. Next. 3. You three henge into other people and use them to buy whatever materials they need for the repairs, and then help them as needed. Don't dispel until everything's done. The last one. I place my hand on his shoulder. Your task is the most important, my friend. It's your task to henge your face into another's and then go shopping for my clothes for the date tonight. Something classic but nothing fancy, and also flowers and chocolates. I want to make this memorable. After which, go to Ichiraku's and ask them if it's possible for a table reservation for tonight at 6. They'll probably start cooing over it all, but inform them you're just a clone beforehand and save all the cooing till after, okay? Then take everything back to the safe house and leave it all there before you dispel. I'm counting on you all. I got a massive Yoshi in return as they all set off on their tasks. I smirked before I turned to head off, but I was halted when the purple-haired Nico masked Anbu landed in front of me. I looked at her with a smile. Good morning, Nico-chan. I trust you're well on this fine morning. Hi, Uzumaki-san. I come bearing a request from Hokage-sama, she said, standing up. He requests your presence this afternoon in his office at your earliest convenience before 5:30. He wishes to speak with you on matters concerning village problems before a meeting at that time. Sounds like Gigi wants to get the ball rolling early. Nothing wrong with that. I smirked before nodding. No problem, Nico-chan. Tell Gigi I'll be there, no problem. She nodded but then shuffles on the spot for a moment. I raise an eyebrow. Something the matter, Nico-chan? She nodded. Hi. I just wanted to thank you for yesterday in Hokage-sama's office. Your discretion, that is. The last thing I need is those on my unit finding out about my cycle, as it were, so arigato. I chuckled slightly. Don't mention it, Nico-chan. We're all not but human and shouldn't be judged by our genders. Now, if that's all, I really must be going. I have my test now and technically I'm late, so goodbye, I said before I quickly sunshined away, heading for the training grounds. Scene break. I approached the training field and see both Sasuke Tem and Sakura were standing in the middle of the training grounds awaiting Kakashi's arrival. Man, how long have they been waiting? Don't tell me they took his orders seriously. What a pair of idiots. Good morning, teammates. I trust you both have had wonderful mornings. I certainly have, I say as I walk in with a grin, as I stick my fingers in my ears for what is to come. Naruto Baka. You're late, the screeching pink-haired howler monkey starts. Quote, says the ever-brooding Tem. Taking my fingers out of my ears, I sigh, looking at Sakura. Oddly enough, I still heard her clearly. I think you need to check your definition of late, Sakura. Last I checked, training can only start when the sensei is present, and I don't see Kakashi anywhere around here, so, in fact, I'm here early just like you two, I stated plainly. It looked like she was about to argue back but couldn't poke a hole in my logic, and then both their stomachs grumbled at them. I chuckled before walking over to the shade of a tree and leaning back against it, putting my hands behind my head, letting my senses out as I closed my eyes, feeling for anyone approaching. Then I felt her. Naruto-sama, I have arrived. I opened my eyes partly. Good. Don't give yourself away just yet. Get comfortable. We've still got Kakashi to wait on, and he could be a while, I telepathically said as I got comfortable. I trust hubby-chan has been taking care of you well. Yes, mistress has been quite accommodating. Her daily training is making me stronger every day. Good. I'm sorry I haven't seen you in the past month or so. I've been constantly busy trying to prep for my plans. I know, Naruto-sama, both myself and mistress are ready to assist you when the time comes and await your clan status. Well, if all goes well, that should be in the next few months as soon as the Chunin exams finish, and hopefully, in the next few days we might have another girl joining our ever-growing little family. The one you have mentioned many times in the past. I look forward to meeting my new mistress shortly then. I don't know if she'll like the whole mistress title, try Sama when you meet. And now in the meantime, I shall have to think of some ways to make it up to you for being away for so long. Just seeing you again is enough for me, Naruto-sama. I mentally smiled, and for now, it's enough for me, Ims-chan. Time skip. It was another hour before I smirked, feeling Kakashi approaching. Good morning Kakashi, nice of you to join us, I said, opening my eyes as Kakashi appeared out of a whirlwind of leaves. You're late, screamed Sakura. Sorry I'm later, I got lost on the road of life. He rubbed the back of his head. I chuckled, getting up. Ah, that road, it has so many twists and turns, but it is so enjoyable to travel on. Kakashi, I smiled. I'm glad someone understands my joy. Now, are you three ready to find out if you've really got what it takes to become genin? I rotated my neck, letting off a series of pops as I limbered up. I was born ready. How heavy are you going in? Full force or just enough? Kurama asked. I mind smirked. I was thinking a little bit over just enough, and then have Ims-chan come in to assist. I'd rather not leave the village as a massive crater in the ground if I went full force. Kakashi, I smiled at my words as he walked over to a stump and set a timer on it. Good, this timer is set for noon, that's 1 hour. In that time you three have to get these bells off me, he said, holding up the 2 bells. If you can't get them by noon, you go without lunch and you will be tied to those points and made to watch as I eat my lunch in front of you. As if on cue, both Sasuke and Sakura's stomachs rumbled, and I chuckled, earning glares from both Sasuke and Sakura. Kakashi blinked before I smiling. Well, it looks like one of you eat before coming here this morning. I grinned. Yep, had myself a nice big fry up with all the trimmings. Can't start the day on an empty stomach, that's just asking for trouble. Naruto Baka. Sensei told us not to eat before coming here, the pink-haired banshee started again. I just sighed before rubbing the bridge of my nose between my eyes, trying to soothe the coming migraine that was forming. Think, for once in your life, think, Sakura. What were Kakashi-sensei's exact words? You might want to skip breakfast or you'll puke. Emphasis on might. In other words, it was a suggestion, not an order. A ninja must be able to see through deception, to look underneath the underneath and not follow blindly like sheep. Sakura was seething at my words, while Sasuke was glaring at me, as I caught tidbits of him cursing himself for letting the dope show him up, but their attentions were taken when Kakashi started clapping and applauding. Well done, at least one of you three show promise as a shinobi, Kakashi chuckled. Saw through it all, did you, Naruto? I wonder just how powerful you are now. Now Sasuke's glare was on Kakashi and Sakura was pouting. I just grinned, crossing my arms. So sensei, care to continue and explain to Dumb and Dumber here as to why there are just 2 bells when there are 3 of us? Kakashi shrugged. I thought that would have been obvious. I smiled. Really like how obvious your non-order was about breakfast, I deadpanned. Alright, you have a point. There are only 2 bells, so that way at least one of you will end up tied to a post and ultimately disqualified for failing to complete the mission. That one goes back to the academy. But then all 3 of you could fail and get sent back, he explained as both Sasuke's and Sakura's eyes widened in shock. Not likely. I just yawned in boredom. And to make sure you're taking this seriously, everything is allowed in this, that includes weapons and jutsu, Kakashi finished. Sakura's eyes bulged. But sensei, those weapons are too dangerous, she screeched. I groaned, rubbing the bridge of my nose again now with a full-on migraine. Oh Sakura, will you shut up? I yelled at her. I swear your voice can shatter glass at that pitch. Now stop and think for just 1 second, he is a Jonin, we are genin. If you would have done your research like a good shinobi, you would have realized he is a former Anbu captain. I said, pointing at Kakashi, making him give a wave, which means the only ones who could possibly even lay a scratch on his are people with the same rank or higher, like one of the 3 Sannin or that of the Hokage. If you think for a second that a couple of genin throwing some knives and a few C-rank jutsu, at best, can even hope to land a hit on him, you're obviously a lot dumber that you look, and that's saying something. Narrator's POV. Sakura was in shock at Naruto's words. He never spoke to her like that. He just to fawn all over her, seeking her attention and even trying to ask her out on dates. She always refused, of course, but it always helped boost her ego. But this wasn't the same Naruto. It couldn't be. He would have never yelled at her like this. Ever since coming into the classroom the other day, he was completely changed. His whole personality was different, colder, more rigged. It was like he was a completely different person. And she didn't know how to respond to him. Sasuke looked indifferently at Naruto, trying to weigh him up, but put it all off to his balls finally dropping and refocused on Kakashi. Anbu Captain. He might actually be able to teach him something useful. It was the same rank as him, after all, and he hate to admit it, but the dope was right. Only someone of Kakashi's strength or higher could possibly surpass that, so that what he would do surpass Kakashi, that would be his first marker. Naruto's POV. Kakashi sighs. Once again, Naruto is right. You are to come at me with the intent to kill. If you don't, you will never get these bells, and you will not pass. Of course, I'm right. I think, as I settle into a stance focusing on Kakashi. Right, let's get started then, shall we? I'm starting to get rather bored with all this talking. Why not get to the fun part, shall we? Ims-chan, you ready? I called out mentally. In that split second I knew what I had to do. Both Sasuke and Sakura leapt back to hide in the tree line. I reached for my side pouch and pulled out 3 smoke bombs and threw them at the ground, covering the area in smoke. Phase 1 complete. Kakashi narrowed his eye as the area was flooded with smoke from Naruto diversion. Kakashi tried to peer through it but couldn't see anything at all. Using smoke to cover his teammates while they hide and conceal his own movements. Clever strategy. He's strategizing and watching his teammates' backs on the first day. He knows how to act. My smoke started to clear after about 20 seconds, but that was all the time I needed. My plan was already in action. I smiled and peered through the smoke at Kakashi as we both looked at each other, waiting for the first move to be thrown, but something tells me we were having the same thoughts as we reached for our side pouches. Well, Naruto, shall we get things started? Kakashi asks with an eye smile. Oh yes, Kakashi, I've been looking forward to this all day. I grinned. Yep, same thoughts. Oh well, I've got to wait a few minutes before my plan can really start. Author's POV. Both Sasuke and Sakura watched. Sakura thinking, what's he thinking, trying to take on Sensei all by himself? Cha. He's trying to show up Sasuke, the baka. Sasuke smirked. Perfect, the dope will get himself beaten to a pulp and give me an opening to strike all at the same time. Thanks for the distraction, dope. Both Kakashi and Naruto were still watching each other as they slowly unclicked their pouches and reached inside and slowly waited until finally they both pulled out little orange books and casually opened them and started reading. The silence went on as both Sasuke and Sakura looked on. Both were confused by what they saw. Naruto and their sensei were reading. Naruto's POV. I smiles as I started reading. Yep, 2 great minds do think alike. Naruto-sama. What is going on? I thought you required my assistance. Easy, Ims-chan. My plan is already in motion. This test is all about teamwork, so in order to pass I need to get those other 2 to work with me. I see. Is that why I can sense your shadow clones moving through cover to their locations? Yep. I sent them out in the cover of the smoke. Now listen carefully, hear what I need you to do. Sakura's POV. I'm still watching from the cover of a bush, keeping still so as not to attract attention. I just wish something would happen already. It's been 2 minutes and all these 2 have done is read. It's starting to really piss me. Suddenly a hand cover my mouth and I gasp. Oh no, who is it? It can't be Kakashi sensei, or Naruto baka, they're both out there. Is it my Sasuke-kun come to confess his love finally? Cha. Took your sweet time about it. But my hopes are dashed when I hear their voice, but it confused me at the same time. It's Naruto baka's voice. Shish, Don't make a sound, it's only me, Sakura, he says as he removes his hand from my mouth. I turn and look to see it is him. I look back to the field and then back to Naruto. Baka, how is this possible? You can't be in two places at once. He puts his finger to his mouth to signal quite. Don't freak, I'm only a shadow clone. The original sent me here to find out if you had managed to work out the real meaning to this test yet. Shadow clone? What? Test's real meaning? What is he talking about? You're not making any sense, Baka. I snap, making him sigh. Don't you sigh at me, Baka. You're not my Sasuke-kun. Think about it, Sakura. There has to be a reason behind this test, a hidden meaning. Why else would they put 3 fresh out of the academy genin up against a seasoned jonin? It doesn't make sense unless they want us to work tighter. Thing about it, have you ever heard of a 3 or 2-man team? Because I sure as hell haven't. I widen my eyes hearing this. He's right, squads have always been 4-man teams, it's standard shinobi training, so if you follow that logic he can't fail just one of us, so the bells are just a ploy. He's right, the test is about teamwork. Cha. I bet Sasuke already figured this out ages ago, way before this, Baka. Okay, Baka. So the test is about teamwork. What about Sasuke-kun? We have to get to him as well. He's the only one who has a chance against Kakashi-sensei. I argue. There's no way this Baka can fight sensei one-on-one, and I sure as hell can't, but Sasuke-kun can. He is rookie of the year after all. Don't worry, the boss sent another clone to inform him as well, and that he's getting into position as we speak, the Naruto clone says with a grin that's kind of unsettling. Alright, okay, what's the plan? I ask, shivering from his grin. Naruto's POV. I closed my eyes as the memories of both my clones came back to me. After a few moments I frowned a second before grinning, getting them all. Alright, Ims-chan, looks like it's plan B, get into position. Things are about to kick off. You know when to attack, I order mentally through the communication seal. Hi Naruto-sama. I chuckle slightly, closing my book. With everything was in place, it's time to get down to the fun stuff. Well, Kakashi, I suppose we should actually do something before our teammates die of boredom from watching us. Kakashi, I smiled as he looked at me. I suppose we should. I wonder what the whole period beforehand was about. Was he gathering chakra for a jutsu? No, the fox would do that for him. Planning a strategy? No, he would have done that beforehand. And all he's done for the past 3 minutes is read. Just what are you planning, Naruto? I flex my neck as we both slip our books away, and I grin, getting ready for the fight. Kai, I whisper as I release my restraint seal slightly. Kakashi narrows his eyes as he only barely heard that. Kai, he released something, but what? I shot at Kakashi with my restraints loosened. I was 5 times faster, nearly mid-jonin level speed, but Kakashi's was still higher, evidence to the point he was able to get his footing and take a stance before my first fist came at him. I threw a left straight at him, he deflected with his right arm and threw a left straight at me. I ducked under it and went to drive my left leg into his midsection. He caught us and used my own momentum to twist me around and try to throw me. But I caught the ground and twisted myself around into a right heel kick. He caught it also, but in doing so loosened his grip on my left, allowing me to shake both free and drop to the ground and sweep for his shins. This caused Kakashi to leap up into the air to dodge my kick, but in the air he can't move himself. I pushed off the ground into a spear kick, aiming for his gut, but he saw it coming and twisted, so I only grazed him. But with my skills, a graze will still hurt, just a bit further, and there. Kakashi's eye widened at the pain he received from the graze to his lower midsection. He enhanced his limbs with chakra so it does more damage. Wasn't expecting that. I had better dodge them right from now on, or this fight will be over before it properly begins. Kakashi skidded back, but then he felt his heels snag on something and then the familiar twang of wire snapping. Then his eyes opened wide. A trap. When did he have time to set that up? From both sides of the clearing, poofs were heard as kunai shot out of 4 trees, all at Kakashi. The Jonin jumped up and backwards to dodge them. Got you, no Kakashi. I though as I drew back my open palm and then shot it forward. Futon. Kuki-yashi no jutsu, wind release air palm, as a blasting current of air exploded from my palm and shot at Kakashi, hitting its mark. Kakashi felt like he had been hit by a cannonball, as he skidded to the ground getting his breath back, that when Sakura and Sasuke shot out of the bush and started throwing kunai at him. He easily deflected them while winded. Sasuke came in fast and dropped in with a spinning low kick. Body low to the ground and foot high, Kakashi spun to avoid it and then Sakura went at him with a kunai. Kakashi caught her hand to restrain her only to get a kick to the face from Sasuke knocking him back a bit. Surprised at the strength of his kick, he used chakra kicks too. How can a genin have such high chakra control? That's a chunin if not jonin technique. Not giving Kakashi a chance to think, I shot in before pulling a mid-air spin with my left leg outstretched, catching Kakashi in the chest and sent him skidding back further with a groan. Phase 2 complete. Time for Phase 3 and 4. Kakashi cringed at the pain in his chest after that chakra kick from Naruto, but he could tell he was holding back. A full-powered chakra kick would have been enough to shatter shoulders. Naruto obviously didn't want to kill him given the fact he was still breathing. These three are good, they cover each other's moves and watch each other's backs. I may just have to pass them after all. I looked to Sasuke and nodded as we both pulled out 3 shuriken each and launched them at Kakashi, who took out a kunai to deflect them, but his eye widened seeing my hands go into a hand sign. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. At that, those 6 shuriken we threw became 60 as they flew at Kakashi, who leapt out of the way as they rained on him, but keeping the assault. Sasuke was on him again, throwing a combo of punches keeping Kakashi on his toes. Then Kakashi grabbed one of Sasuke's overhead kicks as he twisted in his grip and threw his other foot at Kakashi's groin. Kakashi quickly blocked that one, only for Sasuke to twist again, reaching for the bells. Kakashi saw that and pushed Sasuke back, making him come short of the bells as he panted again. This isn't right. Those two were like oil and water the other day, now their team works like a pair of veteran shinobi, and Sasuke is actually working with Naruto and backing up Sakura. Something's going on here. The three of us converged on a point in front of Kakashi, ready to move in for the next wave. Kakashi raised his hands ready for whatever we threw at him. I smirked as I reached for my pouch again and tossed 3 more smoke bombs, once more covering the area in a cloud of smoke. Kakashi looked round, blinded by the smoke, knowing they had a plan, but what? Suddenly multiple small fires balls shot at him from multiple locations as he heard multiple puffs of things dispelling, and he raised his eyebrow. Shadow clones, so that he used clones to set up the traps in the cover of the smoke. That is how he did it all, and combining it like a lesser jutsu like Kanton. Furia no Jutsu, fire release. Flare Jutsu, is ingenious, just not powerful. Kakashi balled his fists and started batting the small fire balls away with the metal plates on the back of his gloves. As the last of them faded away, Kakashi stood in a stance ready for the next wave that never came. As the smoke faded, Sasuke and I stood on one side of Kakashi with Sakura on the other, all 3 of us grinning. Kakashi was waiting, but then the bell went off. Kakashi I smiled and then chuckled. Well, looks like none of you pass and none of you get lunch, sorry about that. I wouldn't be so sure of that, Kakashi. I chuckled as I pointed behind him. Kakashi looked behind him to see Sakura holding a bell with a smile, only to look to his belt to see both bells were gone. He then looked to me and I gestured to Sasuke, who was holding the other one between his fingers. I smirked. While I was bombarding you with those fireballs, those 2 moved in and swiped the bells while you were distracted. Kakashi sighed and rubbed the back of his head. Well, this is awkward. I smiled, rubbing the back of his head. Guess that means you fail then, Naruto. I just shrugged with a grin. I failed 3 times in a row. I can wait 1 more year. I smiled, as Kakashi looked at me, knowing I didn't mean that after the little chat in Gigi's office the other day. Not a chance, snapped Sasuke, tossing his bell to me. I don't accept charity. I'd rather get the bell on my own. Sakura looked disheartened. She didn't know what to do. She didn't want to be apart from Sasuke, but she didn't want to hold him back either. She didn't know what was happening. Then Kakashi I smiled. Definitely not Sasuke. Good acting though. Well, that would be good, if you were really Sasuke though, he said, looking at the 2 boys. Sakura looked at him confused. Sasuke, frowned and I rubbed the back of my head chuckling. You realized him, well it was working up till a point. Kakashi chuckled. Realized what? That in less than 24 hours you two have went from glaring and barely looking at each other, to working in sync, to which I can only compare to that of seasoned veteran shinobi, or the fact that you seem to be working like you're reading each other thoughts, or maybe, Sasuke, over there is using higher level skills there is no way he should know. I chuckled louder. Yeah, that was a bit of a stretch. Yeah, we did do that a little too well, didn't we? Ims-chan, looks like we've been found out. Indeed we have, Naruto-sama, responded Sasuke, before bursting into smoke. Author's POV. As the smoke cleared, it revealed a young girl age 16 with long black hair to the base of her back, deep brown eyes, and pale perfect skin. Wearing black Anbu-style trousers cut off at the knees with her lower legs tightly wrapped in bandaged from her kneecaps down, wearing black shinobi sandals, and white top that cut off just above her belly button, with a mesh bra wrapped around the top of her shirt, over her C-cup. She wore a black sleeveless hoodie with white fur around the rims of the hood, arms, and up the main zipper, on the back of which was a white Uzumaki swirl. She stood just an inch shorter than Naruto, and gave a small smile, before bowing. Naruto POV. Please forgive me for not introducing myself sooner, but it was part of Naruto-sama's plan B that I not reveal myself until the end of the test, Ims-chan said as she bowed. Sakura blinked a few times before pointing at her, in a shout, who the hell are you? Oh yes, forgive me, I am Izumi Uzumaki, faithful servant under the care of Naruto-sama. He asked me to come and assist him, and you in this test this morning, as my debut on the team, she said with a bow. Sakura just blinked, she didn't know what to think. The fact that Ims-chan called herself my faithful servant, the fact that she addressed me with Sama. I've tried to get her to stop that but she always refuse, I mentally sighed. Or the fact that she will be on their team, or the fact that she addressed herself as an Uzumaki. Last she remembered Naruto was an orphan with no family, so where did she come from? Kakashi smiled at the young very polite girl. Well, it is very nice to meet you, Izumi-san. Think nothing of it. I just wish I would have been informed beforehand about a fourth member joining our team. I was not aware the Hokage signed off on it, but I have to ask, where is? Before he could finish, Sakura's eyes bulged. Wait, if you were Sasuke-kun this whole time, that where is he? She better not have done anything to him, cha. If she has, she's toast. Kakashi chuckled. Yes, that it. I grinned, knowing exactly where he was, where he has been this whole time, bound, gagged and tied to a tree after refusing to help in the test like he was meant to. I answered, getting a glance from Kakashi and a WTF stare from Sakura. Flashback no jutsu. Naruto clone came up behind Sasuke, and put his hand on his shoulder. Sasuke swerved round, kunai ready, but Naruto grabbed it. Relax, Tem, I'm a friendly. Sasuke looked at him confused and then narrowed his eyes. Explain, he said in a hiss. The clone pointed to himself. Shadow clone. Boss sent me to see if you figured out the real reason behind this test yet, Tem. Sasuke narrowed his eyes further. Shadow clones? How can this dope do shadow clones and I an elite Uchiha? Can't. What do you mean? Teamwork, Tem. This test is all about teamwork, to see if we can look past all the bull and get the mission done. So you in or out? The clone answered in the same deadpan tone. Sasuke scoffed. Beat it, dope. I can take care of this on my own. I don't need the help of a fangirl and a dead last to do this. I'm an Uchiha. The clone sighed. Look, Tem, we're meant to be on a team, that means working together. I'm willing to look past the bullshit, but are you willing to look past your inflated ego and actually work together or not? Sasuke didn't even respond, only watch on as the real Naruto and Kakashi kept reading. The clone sighed. Guess it's plan B then. Can't say I don't prefer it then. Sasuke was about to look and ask what plan B was when he felt a jab in the back of his neck and everything went dark. When he awoke, he found himself tied to a tree, gagged and tagged. Author's note. Tagged refers to a ceiling tag that is attached to the one being restrained. It temporarily prevents the one restrained from gathering and using chakra as long as it's attached. no chakra no jutsu, no getting free. Sasuke looked around to see the clone squatting in front of him. Sorry about this, Tem. Can't have you jumping in and screwing up the plan. You could have played nice and helped, but no. Now you'll just have to sit in timeout while the big kids have fun. Boss will be by after the test to cut you loose. But don't worry, I'm sure your pets on the council will work their magic and make sure you still pass regardless one way or another. See you around, the clone said before bursting into smoke. Kai. Flashback end. I looked at their expressions on the subject. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Sakura's jaw hit the floor. Chan smiled slightly in amusement at the explanation. I chuckled. Guess we should release him now. I started walking over to the bushes and pulled them back, revealing a very pisses and tied up Tem. Sakura shrieked and ran over to him and started to untie him. Kakashi's sweat dropped, and looked to me. Was that really necessary? He asked in a monotone. I smirked and shrugged. I treated it like I would on a mission with a disgruntled teammate who is refusing to cooperate, and is liable to screw up the mission plan and likely to interfere. You telling me you wouldn't have done the same if it was a real mission and you were in my position? Kakashi nodded at my reasoning. Fair enough, your logic is sound, though when we're on a real mission, please refer to me before you go tying up your teammates in future. I grinned. I take it that means we still pass then. Yes, two of you work together as a team and you and Izumi seem to work well in sync, and the council will throw a fit if I don't pass the Uchiha here. And with his grades at least I know he won't be a weak link on the team, so yes, you all pass, he finished with an eye smile. I high-fived Chan, another successful plan, but the second Sakura took off the team's chakra suppression tags he was up and very pissed. Dope. The Tem yelled as he shot at Mai with his fist raised ready to swing. I sighed as I dodged the Uchiha's punches with a side step, and then countered his kick to his midsection, throwing him out into the open area. Chan looked like she was ready to defend me, but I held his hand out, gesturing not to with a grin. I got this one. May as well give the Tem a test of his own, seeing as he sat out the real one, as I attached my bell to my belt as I walked forward, rolling my shoulders in glee. The two of us glared at each other. Well, he glared, I yawned. Come on then, Uchiha, let's see if you can get the bell off me, I said before smirking, or even touch me. Sasuke shot at me as I just grinned, swerving like grass, dodging each and every punch and kick Sasuke threw at me. Kakashi just watched. This isn't going to end well, and I can feel a headache coming when the council hears about this. After 10 minutes I had had enough of dodging and threw a punch of my own into Sasuke Tem's shoulder just hard enough to make him leap back. As he did, he started to weave through a familiar series of hand signs in midair. Fair enough, Tem 2 can play at that game. I started to weave my own, but only faster, and then waited for the right moment. Which came when he landed. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, fire style. Fireball Jutsu, Sasuke Tem yelled as he spewed out a fireball at me. It was medium-sized, about what I had expected after seeing him do it so many times in the past, just about the right size for a genin. I waited until it was close enough and then I grinned. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, fire style. Fireball Jutsu. Hearing that makes Sasuke look at me bug-eyed, but not as much as when he saw the size I produced, over 5 times the size of his, and I was holding back a lot. My fireball engulfed his and then shot at him with a vengeance, but I gave the Tem just enough time to jump out of the way before the fireball hit the river, letting off a pillar of steam. The Uchiha was raging. I could almost hear his thoughts. How dare this dope use one of my clan's fire jutsu, and of course that's what he came out with. Dope, how dare you steal that jutsu, he snapped, making me chuckle. I laughed. Oh, that's rich, an Uchiha getting angry over someone using one of their jutsu, when they themselves are the biggest jutsu thieving clan out there. Well, they were. They're gone now, just you and that dear sweet brother of yours left. Too bad, so sad. Which reminds me, I owe him a drink for that, I said with a grin. Well, I have to say that hit the mark better than I had thought possible. I swear it looked like the Tem had popped a blood vessel when he shot at me with his kunai drawn. Dope. I shook my head with glee as the Tem lunged for me, only to sidestep him as at the last possible moment and deliver a swift chop to the back of his neck, dropping the Uchiha to the ground with a thud, out cold. I yawned. And that is the match. I give him a pass, but he needs to watch that temper a bit. His fire jutsu is okay, but he needs better control. I saw way too much lost chakra there, I said with a shrug as I walked over to Kakashi as Sakura gaped for a moment before rushing over to her precious Sasuke-kun. Kakashi I smiled to me. So care to tell me where you picked up the Uchiha's Kaden? Gokaku no Jutsu Fire Style. Fireball Jutsu from. I know they had a method for fully destroying their old scrolls, so you didn't pull it out of the trash. I shrugged. I learned it from watching Sasuke himself. He just loved showing off. It was his go-to jutsu in the academy. I saw it so many times I could run through the hand signs in my sleep. Guess no one ever taught him to be discreet with his jutsu. I'm surprised half the class didn't pick it up in the first week. Kakashi sighed. Yes, he could stand to learn a thing or two from you in that area, like how you use the smoke to conceal your Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, at the start, and then Furia no Jutsu, Flare Jutsu, weak but effective when used in unison. I nodded. Nicely spotted, except, for both those jutsu I didn't use any hand signs. I've practiced them so much, I've mastered them both, along with Kuki Yashi no Jutsu, Air Palm Jutsu, and a few others I didn't show off. I informed like it was nothing. Kakashi blinked. You mean to tell me by the age of 16 you have mastered multiple jutsu to the point of not needing hand signs to use them? I smiled. I'm impressed. I rubbed the back of my head. Thanks, I do train a lot. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go and see Gigi. He called for me to meet him before the council meeting later today, and I have a feeling we could be talking a while, and I have a date later today to get ready for. Ah, I see. I was informed about the council meeting beforehand. As last of the Hitaki clan I have to attend to, so then mind if I join you? I have to report the test results anyway. Kakashi I smiled. Sure, Ims-chan, we're going. Best to be discreet upon arrival. I want you to make a good impression when you meet Gigi. I smiled as I gave her a discreet order. Ims-chan nodded as she came over. Of course, Naruto-sama, she said as she began to shrink and change his form. In a second she was no longer a beautiful girl. She was now a majestic black wolf, with deep brown eyes and white ring around her collar and belly and hind legs. Seeing that little display shocked Kakashi and Sakura. Well, she passed out. Going to have to work on that. I chuckled. Yep, that was the face I had when I first saw too. Kakashi then chuckled. I take it Hokage-sama never signed off on her being on the team, did he? I doubt he even knows about her, does he? I shook my head. I figured we could get her signed up now, with you vouching for her after you saw her skills. She's my partner, like the Inuzuka and their ninja dogs. So she technically joined the team when I did. Kakashi nodded. I suppose that is a good guess, but we'd better get it cleared just to have it on the books and get her registered as she has a human form. I take it that's why she is using your last name as her own. I nodded again as I petted Ims-chan's head. Right then. Come on, let's get going then. There will be a lot to talk about now, Kakashi said as we started walking off towards the Hokage Tower. I mentally summoned 2 shadow clones to take the Tem and his fangirl home. Scene break. Kakashi and Izumi in wolf form were walking down the streets of the village at a leisurely pace. Kakashi just smiled under his mask. Isn't the road of life fun, Naruto? I grinned back. Yep, it's nice to slow down and enjoy the scenery, but I could feel the looks I was getting from people, but I didn't let it get to me. I just wish the scenery didn't give shitty looks back. Kakashi sighed. You'll only have to put up with it for so long, Naruto. I just wish I had done something sooner. I waved Kakashi off. There was nothing you could have done. It's the hand I was given and I'm playing it for all it's worth. No sense gripping about it, I said, throwing my hands behind my head as we walked. Izumi walked behind me, getting fearful looks from the other villagers as we passed. I began hearing whispers about calling the shinobi to deal with the wolf in the village. Izumi quickly walked to my side. I sensed her fear and leaned down and rubbed her behind the ear. It's alright, Ims-chan. I won't let them lay a finger on you. If they try, I'll cut it off, I said with grinning smile, making her relax a bit more. As we walked around a corner, we ran across Team 8. Kakashi. I smiled at Kurenai. Good evening, Kurenai. How's the new team going? Kurenai is fair-skinned woman of slender build. She has long black untamed hair reaching her upper back, and very unique eyes that are red in color, with an additional ring in them. She wears makeup consisting of red lipstick and purple eyeshadow. Her regular outfit consists of a red mesh armor blouse with only the right sleeve visible. Overall, this is very broad material which resembles bandages with a pattern on it similar to those of rose thorns. Her hands and upper thighs are also wrapped in bandages, and she wears the Konoha forehead protector and regular shinobi sandals. Kurenai, if I recall correctly, Anko-chan said she's one of her best friends. Nice to finally meet her. Kurenai smiled back. They're going well, Kakashi. They just passed my genin test, so I'm treating them to lunch as a congratulations. What about yours? This is one of yours, right? Yes, this is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto, this is Kurenai Yuhi. Kakashi introduced us with a grin. Which I read straight off. Please don't piss her off. I nodded to Kakashi, telling him I got the message, and bowed my head slightly to her. Nice to meet you, Kurenai-san. It's a pleasure to meet the Genjutsu mistress of Konoha. Kurenai smiled and bowed her head back. Well met, Naruto. You've done your research. Not many below Chunin know of my title. I smirked. I find it best to know my allies, Kurenai-san. I then looked to Kiba, Hinata and Shino and smiled. So you three passed your test also. Looks like we're all officially genin. Kurenai looked shocked for a minute and then looked to Kakashi. You actually passed a team. Well, that's a first. Kakashi. I smiled. Oh come on, I'm not that bad. It's just that it takes a lot to meet my standards. Kurenai blinks at him. You've failed the past 12 teams assigned to you. What changed this time? Kakashi chuckled. Naruto brought along a surprise that caught me off guard. At that, Izumi stepped into view from behind me, getting some responses from Team 8 and Sensei. Kurenai blinked a few times seeing the wolf and just said, wow. Shino was as stoic as ever but did raise an eyebrow. Hinata was shocked seeing the wolf, but when Izumi sat down next to my side and I rubbed her behind the ears, Hinata seems to relax a little. Kiba, on the other hand, had his eyes bulging out of his sockets. That's a freaking wolf. I smiled. Yes, Kiba, thank you for stating the obvious. This is Izumi, my partner. How the hell do you have a freaking wolf following you around? Kiba yelled, pointing at me. I shrugged dumbly and then grinned. Ask your mother. She was the one who introduced us a year ago and recommended me to be Izumi's alpha. I just didn't think it wise to bring her around school given the fact that everyone would freak with a wolf in the room. Then Kiba did something stupid. Why the hell would my mother recommend you for an alpha? You're the dead last of our class, the weakest. At that, Izumi growled at Kiba, making the boy flinch, and myself chuckle. You more than anyone should know, never insult an alpha in front of his loyal pack, it never ends well. I looked to Ims-chan. Ims-chan, why don't you greet Hinata-chan? She's the one in the middle, the one I mentioned in the past. Just don't try to freak her out when you talk. Izumi looked to me and nodded, before walking over to a confused Hinata. Ims-chan lowered her head to Hinata, making her blink curiously. I smiled. She's greeting you, Hinata-chan. No need to worry, she won't bite. Go ahead, Ims-chan, say hello. Much to everyone's shock beside Kakashi and my own, Ims-chan morphed into her human form, kneeling to Hinata. It is a pleasure to meet you, Hinata-sama. Naruto-sama has spoken very highly of you. Hinata-chan blinked even more hearing her speak and then more at hearing I had mentioned her, but she quickly got back her senses. It's very nice to meet you, to Izumi-san. Kurenai walked over to beside Kakashi as they talked. I listened in. She's no ordinary wolf, is she? Kakashi shook his head. No, I haven't heard all the details yet, but she seems quite loyal to Naruto, and she can perform advanced ninjutsu techniques. I felt one of her chakra-enhanced kicks. She packs a punch. Kiba blinked looking at Ims-chan and then she shot him a glare and in the blink of an eye was face to face with him, sharpened claw at his jugular. And you mutt, You ever insult Naruto-sama again in my presence and it will be the last thing you ever do, am I clear? She snarled, making Kiba flinch. I sighed playfully. Ims-chan, you can't kill him. Well, you could, but that's beside the point. I don't need the grief from Sum-sama. Should you kill her youngest, even if he is a disrespectful mutt that needs his kicked, but if he does insult me again, feel free to give him one, but no killing without permission, okay? Ims-chan retracted her claws and stepped back, still glaring at Kiba. Hi Naruto-sama, she said as she continued stepping backwards and morphed back into her wolf form by my side. Kakashi nervously chuckled and broke the tension. Well, I think that's enough meet and greet. Come on Naruto, we'd better get going, not wise to keep the Hokage waiting. Hi Kakashi, I said, and then started walking with him before calling back to Team 8, I'm looking forward to our date tonight, Hinata-chan, remember 6 o'clock, I'll see you there. Hinata jumped. Hi Naruto-kun, she said with a blush. Kurenai noticed this and raised an eyebrow and smiled, seeing her reaction to Naruto as the boy walked off, Wolf and Kakashi by his side. So that's Naruto Uzumaki. I can see why Anko has taken a liking to this one. She looked to Hinata and saw her blush and smiled. Well, Anko, looks like you may have some competition when it comes to him after all. I'm not sure who to side with on this one. Scene break. Kakashi and I stood outside the Hokage building. I am all too familiar with it, having visited so many times over the years. I looked up and grinned and then looked to Ims-chan. Ims-chan, could you find somewhere to wait while me and Kakashi go in first? I don't think the receptionist or any wandering shinobi inside would take kindly to a wolf walking through the Hokage building, and seeing as you're not a registered citizen or shinobi, it could cause an incident. Hi, Naruto-sama, I will await your signal to enter, she responded before disappearing in a shuncheon of black leaves. Kakashi raised his eyebrow and looked to me. She'll join us inside Gigi's office. I thought it wise to avoid people asking questions about her until she's registered, and we don't need the hostility, I said in a sigh. I'd like to avoid all if possible, I thought as Kakashi nodded and we began walking into the building. Scene break. We walked through to the reception area of the Hokage office and Kakashi asked if the Hokage was available. The result was the receptionist glaring at me with hated eyes, and I just sighed before glaring back. Always the same shit with this one. When is Gigi going to fire you? Are you going to answer or not, civilian? We have shinobi matters to attend to, so I suggest you answer before we enter anyway. And if it turns out he is busy with something important, we'll just blame it on you anyway. So answer or not, it's up to you, I snapped angrily, having had enough of this shit over the years. The girl glared back. He's available. Go in, brat. I nodded with a smirk. Thank you. There was that so hard, I said, getting in one last jab of my own and not giving her a chance to reply before walking in with Kakashi, as he was giving his own one-eyed glare to the girl as we went. We entered into the Gigi's office and I smirked, seeing 3 shadow clones behind the desk working away while the original was reading and smoking. Well, good to see Gigi relaxing for once, not worrying about paperwork. I should have told him that trick years ago would have saved me a few headaches. Seeing the two of us, he tried to hide Ika from our sight. And Naruto, Kakashi, I didn't expect you till later. He yelped in surprise, straightening up. I was just brushing up on old paperwork, he said, trying to play it off. Kakashi and I chuckled and shared a look before we pulled out our own copies with smiles. Don't worry, Gigi, we're all fans of Jiraiya's work here, I said with a big smile. Kakashi just I smiled. Gigi blinked and looked to me, with his grandfather eyes. Aren't you a little young for that type of book? He asked, raising an eyebrow. I shrugged. What's that old saying for shinobi? Old enough to kill, old enough to smoke, drink, gamble, cuss and read ecchi books. Sarutobi just sighed, giving up. They start of so young these days. I grinned, putting my Ika away. So Gigi, how many time you read it? First time. Cursed paperwork has kept me from it, only just started this morning. Damn, I really should have told him sooner, keeping him away from this masterpiece so long as inhuman. Yet another reason to hate the council. You're welcome, Gigi, I said with a smirk. Sarutobi sighed and shook his head. So what can I do for the two of you? I wasn't expecting you till 4 Naruto. I smirked. I decided to come by early seeing as there were some favors I needed to ask you about and I figured our discussion was going to be a very long one. Now that I'm officially a genin I can tell you everything I've been holding back so far. Kakashi just came along to tell you I passed. I gestured to Kakashi with a smirk. Sarutobi smiled. Well, that's no shock, as he took a drag from his pipe and then looked to Kakashi. So Kakashi, is he as good as he said he is? Kakashi took on a serious stance. All business now. Perhaps better, Hokage-sama, but perhaps we should clear the room before discussing anything further. Hi, that would be wise, Sarutobi said as he waved his hand and the Anbu appeared and walked out. Okay, now let's hear it. He's better than he said he was. I don't even think he gave us an accurate gauging of his skills in our last meeting. His speed was that of a Jonin. His taijutsu style I have never seen before. He used 3 jutsu without hand signs and he even had a partner waiting in the shadows for the test, who was at least Chunin level in strength, Kakashi said as he sounded impressed. Gigi blinked and looked to me. Well, my boy, you seem to have a lot of explaining to do. Let's start with this partner of yours. Who are they? I nodded. That's one of the favors I was wanting to ask about. I was hoping you'd allow her to join Team 7 as a shinobi of the Leaf. As Kakashi said, she's already Chunin level, and I can vouch for her loyalty and dedication, as can clan head Sume Inuzuka-sama. Gigi nodded with a grandfatherly smile. I see. Well, I would like to meet them first before I sign off on anything. Please have them. But before he could finish I grinned. Come on it, Ims-chan. And with that she appeared in the office in a swirl of black leaves in wolf form beside me, getting a blinking response from Gigi as she bowed her head respectfully. I smiled. Gigi, meet Ikzumi, my partner, I said, gesturing to her. Gigi smiled and looked to Kakashi. Kakashi, when you said that they were Chunin I assumed you meant they were human. Kakashi, I smiled. I did, Hokage-sama. Naruto, he finished. Looking to me I nodded and looked to Ims-chan. Ims-chan, go ahead, I said aloud. Ims-chan nodded, and Gigi's eyes widened as she morphed into her human form and kneeled to the Hokage. It is an honor to meet you, Hokage-sama. I am Ikzumi Uzumaki, faithful servant to Naruto-sama, and I respectfully request your permission to join the Leaf Village as a shinobi of the Leaf, Ims-chan stated respectfully, still bowed. Author's POV. The elderly Hokage blinked a few times and then started to smile at the young girl. Well, this is certainly surprising, I must say. I never expected to see such a sight. Ikzumi-chan, I would be honored to have too as a shinobi of the Leaf. If Naruto vouches for your character and Kakashi vouches for your skill, I see no reason not to make it so, and given Kakashi's evaluation I see no reason not to install you at the rank he gauged your skills at. He went to continue but Ikzumi cut him off. No, Hokage-sama, please install me at the same rank as Naruto-sama. I could never be above my alpha, she pleaded, and Sarutobi looked to Naruto confused. Naruto POV. I smirked looking at his confusion. It's a wolf alpha thing, Gigi. I then placed my hand on Ims-chan's shoulder. It's alright, Ims-chan, it's only a matter of time before I rise through the ranks, give it a few months. I smiled. Plus having you as a Chunin may be handy from time to time until I am one. Ims-chan nodded. Alright, Naruto-sama, if that is what you wish for me then I will, but I will not ever command you, I nodded with a smile. Gigi smiled. Very well, I will get the paperwork underway. You will be a Chunin by day's end, and assigned to work under Kakashi as his Chunin assistant, but firstly something tells me from the way the two have been acting, that you've known each other a while, and I haven't seen you when I was using my crystal to watch over Naruto-kun, so where have you been? I smiled. Time to start explaining. Well, she's been staying with a very good friend of mine, who I met a year or so before her. Seeing as she couldn't stay in my apartment and come to school with me, she stayed with her and used Henge to do daily activities, and that's when we weren't training daily in the Forest of Death. Sarutobi's and Kakashi eyes bulges. Naruto, that place is dangerous. There's a reason its fences often used only for Chunin and Jonin exams. The creatures and plants in there are deadly. I just shrugged, not seeing what the deal was. Didn't seem so dangerous to me. Well, compared to the village at least. I've been going in there for 3 years to train daily, spending hours up to days in there training my body by fighting those so-called deadly animals, leaving shadow clones to keep up the act. Compared to the hostility I used to get from those in the village, the forest of death is peaceful, and that's even with those damn spiders. Sarutobi was at a loss for words. Here was a 15-year-old boy telling him that he found a forest filled with deadly man-eating predators, spiders and other insects that range from the size of rat to the size of 3 horses was more peaceful than the village he grew up in. He truly didn't know what to say, as he bowed his head in grief. I'm sorry, Naruto. It's all right, Gigi. Had I not trained there, I never would have met those that I now call friends and hold dear, I said with a smile. Sarutobi nodded, and then Kakashi started to shake. Naruto, you wouldn't happen to mean Anko Mitarashi from the T&I Division, Torture and Interrogation Division, would you? She's the only one I can think who even venture into that forest, other than you. I nodded, with a grin. I see Anko-chan's reputation precedes her. Just wait until they get a load of me with a knife. Yes, but before we continue this conversation, Gigi, please seal the room. The rest of this conversation is need to know, and I prefer it stay that way, as it's likely going to be breaking triple S rank secrets. Gigi looked at me seriously and then nodded before forming a hand seal and nodding again as the shutters dropped and the light came on in the room as the door locked shut as it glowed, signifying the room was completely secure, no one in or out, and no one listening in. I nodded in thanks as I then sat down on the opposite sofa, sitting forward. Kakashi stood behind Gigi while Chan-tuk stood behind me. We looked like 2 foreign leaders meeting with their respective aides in tow, discussing matters of war and politics, which is just the kind of atmosphere I want. I took a breath and exhaled in a sigh. Right then, I suppose it's time I come clean about everything, I said as I looked across at my grandfather figure with a solemn look on my face, lifting the figurative mask I wear to hide my true self ever so slightly, as I watched both Kakashi and Gigi flinch seeing my stare, and that is the reason I wear it, to act normal, but who could be normal after my life? Author's POV. They flinched mainly because it was just so unlike the Naruto they had seen. He was normally, he had always been so carefree and fun-loving, but from what they had seen and learned recently, they had never really seen the real Naruto, that was until now. But it was still so unnatural, those cold eyes of his. No one so young should have those eyes. They were the eyes of someone who had seen 1,000 hells and lived through each of them all and came back for more, who went through all the shit the world had to give and then dishes back just as hard, and now they were about to find out just what the shit was, but then as soon as they had seen it, it was gone, replaced by the mask that he always wore to hide what lay beneath, still serious but actually human. Naruto's POV. Once again I will start from the beginning, but first know the decisions that I made that started all of this. That helped put me on the path to becoming who I now am, that helped me survive the life I have led, I made with all the facts and truths at my disposal, and would not have done so otherwise. What I have done, I did because it was the right thing to do in order to set things right and to fix the wrongs that have been done, I stated with absolute steadfast certainty, knowing everything I said and meant it. I would not have had it any other way. My words may have been cold and unfeeling as I stated the facts I knew to be true, and then took a breath before closing my eyes and released said breath, before raising my head and opening my eyes, getting both Kakashi and Gigi to flinch again. Author's POV. His eyes snapped open, but they weren't the cerulean blue they normally were. No, they were red with black silts, making both Hokage and Kakashi flinch seeing them for that second before they faded away and back to blue. The facts I stated before. They were only partially the truth, though the majority of I said was true, though I simply misled on some of the less important facts and one of the bigger ones, Naruto said as he sat back and crossed his arms, the smaller ones being where I found out about who and what I am, and the larger one being how I became this strong. Both have the same answer, I learned all from the fox sealed within me. This statement made both Kakashi and Sarutobi's eyes widened, and they were about to speak when Naruto held up his hand to silence them. Firstly, do not think I made the decision likely. First, I will tell you how this all came about, and from there I will continue. Gigi, do you remember my first year of the academy? 6 months in to be precise. Flashback author's POV warning: graphic content. Do not read if you are easily offended. Naruto age 11. The young Naruto was on his way home from another tedious day at the academy. It had been his regular day where he had been ignored by his teachers and his peers alike. All except for those few that he would talk to the clan heirs of Nara, Akamichi and Aburame, and tried to talk with the Hyuga, but every conversation was cut short, the teacher yelling at Naruto to shut up, which ultimately ended with him put on one side of the room or sent out of the remainder of the class to sit outside the door with a book on his head and told to pay attention, which ended with him falling asleep. As he walked down the street, he didn't notice, but slowly people started filtering out, until it was just him left in the street. He looked around and noticed all the windows and doors were shut up, even the shops that were open all day till late. He looked around and saw no one. He kept walking, but then both ends of the street were blocked off by 10 people on both ends. He looked backwards and forwards as the 10 started coming towards him, closing in on him from all sides. He knew what was coming as it had happened before, but normally a mask-wearing shinobi had always dropped in and stopped it, but that hadn't been happening the past 2 weeks, and he realized he had to fend for himself. He looked around and saw an alleyway with a clear path. He quickly sprinted for it and made it halfway before 3 people blocked the other end and started towards him. Naruto looked back and the other end was blocked as well, and now both sides were brandishing blunt weapons, pipes, bats, clubs, chains, bricks. He started to hyperventilating. He knew he was trapped and he knew what was coming, but the only thing he could think was run and get away. He took the only option he could. He ran at the 3 on the far end, the side that had the least people, hoping to break through and get away. He slipped past the first and then the second and was about to make it past the kneeling third when he was met by a metal pipe to the side of the head, sending the boy crashing to the wall. He tried to get away, his vision blurry, but then felt a chain around his throat and then he was lifted off his feet. The chain was heavy linked, so it allowed him to breathe, but it hurt like hell when he was lifted off the ground. He couldn't tell what was happening because of the blurry vision, but then he found himself hitting the ground hard. After having his whole world flipped, he realized one had caught him with a chain and then used it to pull him overhead and slam him to the ground. The next thing he felt was multiple heavy hard objects hitting him all over his body with sickening thuds and cracks as he cried out in pain from the blows. He tried to cover himself to shield himself from the blows, but no sooner had he felt an impact to his hands as his hands were shattered. Then another crack to his lower back and then his legs, arms, ribcage, another to the face and groin. As he cried out in agony, his words were inaudible from the screaming, until silence was brought over the area as the attack stopped, and he heard footsteps walking away. He lay there in complete agony, unable to move, bones broken, body bruises and bleeding, and then he felt it, the dreaded feeling and smell, the feeling of something wet slushing over him, of that unmistakable smell. Oil. The sound continued for a few seconds as he tried to plead for mercy, but all that came out were small whimpers and gurgles as the oil entered his mouth, making him choke on it, and then the sound of someone striking a match before the searing pain and the screams that followed as he was set ablaze. The incredible pain of him burning alive continued for another 10 minutes before he stopped screaming as everything went black. After the silence, the last of the attackers filtered away and a masked shinobi in a white mask dropped to the ground and went through a few hand signs before dousing the boy in a spray of water from his palm to put out the blaze. The man walked up the boy, who by now was nothing but a charred corpse, and smirked beneath his mask, but his eyes widened when he saw the charred corpse chest rise and fall and the faint sound of breathing. The boy was still alive. The shinobi cursed about damn civilians not knowing how to kill a demon right before he lifted the charred boy up and taking off to the hospital. Knowing if the boy died from after injuries, he couldn't explain that away. 2 hours later, Hokage's office. Sarutobi was sitting at his desk with paperwork piled high all around him as he signed one sheet and stamped another and lifted more down from the pile and was about to continue the process when a cat-masked Anbu appeared via whirlwind of leaves and spoke. Hokage-sama, come quickly, it's Naruto, he's been attacked. Sarutobi's eyes bulged. Where is he? Where was the Anbu I had stationed on him to protect him in Kakashi's stead? He asked, mind racing a mile a minute. He's at the hospital currently unresponsive, after being brought in by said Anbu, after being burned to a shell by his attackers who still remain at large, the cat-masked Anbu informed while clenching her fists in her own anger. Sarutobi shook with rage as killing intent flooded off of him. He was furious. How could one of his Anbu have allowed this to happen? Ibiki was going to be having a new guest and get to the bottom of this very shortly. Sarutobi nodded. Let's go, Nako-san, he said as she nodded back as they both disappeared in a flash. Scene break. Sarutobi appeared in the hospital room doorway only to find the room in total disrepair, windows broken or open to the worlds, filthy bed sheets, dirty floors, mold on the ceilings and floors, broken equipment, and Naruto laying on the bed like he had just been dumped there and left. The sight of Naruto was truly that of nightmares, limbs bent the wrong way, bones jutting in directions they shouldn't that would make anyone sick, his skin burnt black and red and looked like he has been melted. Sarutobi couldn't believe Naruto was still alive. If it wasn't for the fact he could see his chest wheezing, he wouldn't have believed it. Sarutobi was furious. Nico-chan, take Naruto to a more suitable room while I go find a doctor to treat his injuries. Don't let anyone into the room before I get there. Hi Hokage-sama, she said as she walked over, trying not to gag at the smell of burnt flesh. Time skip 5 days later. Naruto's inner mindscape. Naruto felt sore. He felt like he had been beaten to a pulp and set on fire. Oh wait, he had been. But now all he felt was water. He was in water. He opened his eyes and sat up to look around. He found himself in a dark, damp sewer corridor. He looked at himself and found himself sore but intact. He stood up and made his way down the corridor, coming to a wide open room, and on the other side was a large double metal gate that stood at least 70 feet tall, formed from large metal bars, and over the lock was a paper tag with the kanji for seal on it. As Naruto approached the gate, he could make out the shadow of a form inside, and as he moved closer, so did it. Once they both were at the gate, Naruto's eyes widened upon realizing what he was looking at, a 50-foot tall orange fox with red slit eyes and 9 tails. Naruto started to shake seeing it, and he dropped on his and started to move back, scared for his life. The fox, seeing this, decided to speak. You have nothing to fear from me, kid. Unlike those bastards out there, I wish you no harm. The fox spoke, making Naruto still. Why you're the Kyuubi, the 9-tailed fox that the Yondaime Hokage killed when it attacked the village, Naruto stuttered as he shook in fear. Yes, well, as you can see, my death was clearly exaggerated, the fox said as it lowered itself to the ground in a non-threatening manner. I mean you no harm, kid. Killing you would serve me little good. Where are we? Last thing I remember was pain. I was burning. Is this hell? He asked, looking around. The fox chuckled. Far from it, kid. Though I can see why you'd think that from the fact of what it looks like and the fact I'm here. But no, this isn't hell. We're in your mind, kid. My mind? But if we're in my mind, why are you here? Naruto asked. Not so dumb after all, are you, kid? I am here because all that nonsense, back when your Yondaime supposedly killed me, was a lie. You can't kill a mass of chakra like me. I just reform. No, he didn't kill me. He sealed me away, inside a newborn infant. He sealed me inside of. The fox tried to explain but was cut off by a shaking Naruto. Inside of me, he sealed you in me. The fox nodded and the witness Naruto hold his head and start hyperventilating. Now it all makes sense. The names they called me, demon, filthy fox, demonic spawn, hell's child, it all makes sense. I'm the Kyuubi reincarnated. No, you are not. The fox roared. I am the Kyuubi. You are merely my prison. Don't let those stupid bastards tell you otherwise, you hear me? But you're in me. How can I not? Asked Naruto, shaking again. Kid, let me explain it to you simply. When you seal a kunai inside a scroll dose, that scroll then become the kunai. The fox reasoned as simply as he could. No, Naruto said after a few seconds of thinking and then realizing. That's right, and the same is true for the two of us. I am merely contained inside you. You are not me, the fox sighed. Hearing that, Naruto started to calm down. But then why do they treat me like that? The fox frowned. Because Kit, they are afraid, ignorant fools who want someone to blame for the damage I caused, even though I wasn't in control of my own actions. What do you mean? Asked Naruto, even more confused. I take it you know what a genjutsu is, Kit. Naruto nodded. Well, at the time of my so-called attack I had just been pulled out of my previous container and placed under genjutsu by the one who dragged me out when the seal was at its most weakest. Who he was I don't know, but he had those hated red Sharingan eyes and he used them to control me and forced me to attack the village when your Hokage stopped me and sealed me inside of you. Naruto clenched his fists. Why? The fox looked at him. Why what? Naruto shook with his hair covering his eyes. Why did he do it? Why did he seal you inside me? Why me of all the orphans? Naruto yelled, looking up, eyes brimming with tears. Because, and this is the most important thing, Kit, you weren't an orphan then, you were his son. What? Naruto gasped, thinking he didn't hear right. You are the son of the fourth Hokage, the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. The fox said, letting the information sink in before continuing. Your father sealed me inside of you for many reasons. One was that only an Uzumaki can be my container because of your already vast chakra supplies. 2. He could not ask another to give up a child to bear this responsibility when he had you. He was Hokage and would not force that pain on another. And thirdly, your mother was my container before you, and my first was your clan's head and wife to the first Hokage, Mito Uzumaki. So in short, you were the only one left to take on the task of being my container, worsened by the attack I was forced to do, and so you have suffered under them because of. It's not your fault, Naruto interrupted, getting a blinking reaction from the fox. What? Asked the confused fox. I said it's not your fault. You didn't attack the village yourself, you were controlled. You are just as much a victim as I was, reasoned Naruto as he wiped his tears away. The fox sat there for a few seconds looking into the young boy's eyes, seeing no hatred in him. You're nothing like I expected. You know that. Most others would be cussing me out right now for being the cause of such a horrendous life, and yet you aren't. Naruto looked down. I don't have that many friends, and no one barely even says a kind word to me, if any at all. This is probably the longest conversation I've had with anyone besides Gigi. So in truth I can't blame you because it simply isn't your place to be blamed for my suffering. The fox closed his eyes and sighed. Say that again when I've shown you what happened that night, he said as an oozing substance seeped out of the cage and touched Naruto. When it did, memories of that night flooded into him from the fox's point of view. First from the restrictions of his seal inside his mother, and then when he was pulled out of the seal and set upon the village under genjutsu, and then when his father appeared and used a space-time ninjutsu to transport them outside the village, where his mother used the last of her strength to chain and hold the fox as Minato began the sealing, and then the horror of both his mother and father being impaled by one of the fox's claws in order to stop him from killing the baby Naruto up. He heard his parents' last words to him, and then up until the point where he was sealed again. Naruto gasped as the chakra disconnected and faded away, and he lay on the ground panting, coming to terms with what he had just witnessed, and he closed his eyes as tears filled them witnessing all of that. But then he took a breath. It isn't your place to be blamed for my suffering. The fox's eyes went wide. How can you still say that after everything you just witnessed? It's because of me. The village hates you for being my container. It's because of me you had to endure all of their anger. It's because of me, you don't have your parents. How can you still say that? The blonde boy looked up to the fox with a slight frown. Because I felt everything you felt that night. I felt your fear about not being in control of your own body. I felt your anger about being controlled, and I felt your desperation about not wanting to be caged again. Both my parents were moments away from dying. My mother from having you ripped out of her. A Jinchuriki can't survive without its biju-tailed beast, and my father sealed his own fate by using that jutsu to seal you and me. They were on death's door and would not have survived past that hour. You just sped up the process. How can I possibly resent you for that? When I was just a babe at the time, I was too young to even remember. The fox's eye widened hearing the boy's reasoning. He had been the cause for this boy's pain and suffering for his entire life and he just forgave him like that. This boy was too kind. Thank you, Kit. Thank you for not blaming me. I've pictured how this meeting of ours would go and every time I figured you would curse and resent me for everything. And honestly I accepted that, but now I'm just at a loss for words. I never expected this, the fox said as it bowed its head for a few seconds more and then silence. So what now? Naruto asked, kind of getting bored. What do you mean? What now? The fox asked with a raised eyebrow. I mean, what happens now? Do I just close my eyes and wake up in the real world? Asked Naruto curiously. Normally yes, that would be, but do you remember what happened before you came here? Naruto nodded with a grim face. Well, I am currently in the process of healing you with my chakra. Your body will be as good as new by the time I'm done, but the damage is extensive so it will take quite some time since I can't overload you with my chakra or I could kill you. How much longer will it take? Asked Naruto, wanting to know how long he was going to be waiting here. Well, technically in the real world it's already been 5 days of my healing, and that's why you're here now. I had to heal you this much just to get you here, and peering out of your seal I can see you're in a hospital room. It will still take a while yet to heal the rest of you, explained the fox. So what do I do till then? Naruto asked in a sigh. The fox smirked. Well, I was hoping you'd ask. I want to try and make it up to you for being the reason you've had a horrible life up till now. How do you mean? Asked Naruto with a raised eyebrow. Kit, I'm offering to train you, chuckled the fox. Kai. Flashback end. Hokage office. I took a deep breath and looked into the faces of Kakashi and the third Hokage as they let all that sink in what they had just been told. The fox had been a tool used by someone with a Sharingan to attack the village. At first it was unbelievable, but hearing more and more made it believable. No one knew how the Kyuubi got loose from Kushina that night, especially with Minato guarding her and strengthening the seal, but when the fox had told them had made it all come together and they saw that it was the truth. Kakashi just shook with anger, remembering returning from his mission that very week and being told about what happened to Naruto. He had been needed to go on a mission of great urgency and so a replacement had been set up for him during this time, but the bastard was just another fox hater, who had always left it till the last minute to pull Naruto out. He was happy to watch the man's execution after a month of harsh interrogation, torture with Ibiki. Naruto's POV. I decided enough time had passed and started talking again. After that I spent the time learning from Kurama. Kurama. Gigi interrupted, looking confused. I nodded. That's the Kyuubi name. I asked him it after the third day in training. I couldn't just go around calling him Fox for the months I spent learning from him, I reasoned. But Naruto, you were only out 2 weeks, he asked, now even more confused. I shook my head. Time works differently in the mind, Gigi, depending on how deep you go. Those 5 days were actually 5 months Kurama spent healing me at the start. And then there were the next 9 days Kurama healed the rest of me. They were 9 months in my mind learning from Kurama. And what did the fox teach you? Asked Kakashi, getting his 2 bits in. What I should have been taught at the academy. Kurama had been watching and saw that I wasn't going to be taught properly at the academy. So he took it on himself to train me mentally and then afterwards physically after I woke up. He taught me the mental form of his own personal taijutsu style, one that only he knows. That's why you didn't recognize it, Kakashi. It's called Raging Tails and it's only known by me and Kurama, utilizing power, speed and unrelenting combo attacks to overwhelm most enemies. After I had the basic forms down, he started teaching me chakra control because he said mine was abysmal and that I would need it if I wanted any hope to control my own massive chakra stores. And then his on top, I said with a smirk. Gigi nodded. I see, so he did this to make up for him being the cause of the village's hate towards you. I nodded, and it didn't stop after that. He trained me for the next 3.5 years I was in the academy. When I wasn't in class, one was training with him as my drill instructor, training me like those at the academy would never do. And believe me, he was a hard. And you were the pain in the of a student. I mentally smirked hearing him gripe. And why did you think it was necessary to keep this fact hidden till now? Gigi asked. I narrowed. I told the other facts because, in all honesty, I was still skeptical on what to share, given that I didn't know who might have been listening and I was still partly a civilian, and had I came out with the fact that I had been trained by the Kyubi no Kitsune, nine-tailed fox, you might have called me a traitor straight off the bat and had me imprisoned or tried to at least, without giving me a chance to explain. Gigi frowned at my words but nodded all the same. Naruto, I can understand your skepticism and so I understand your reasoning behind withholding this information until you felt 110% safe, and you are now, as a full shinobi under my command, you have nothing to fear, and now that I know all the facts, I agree with your decision to allow the fox to train you. You have nothing to worry about. He started smiling again, which made me smile. Thank you, Gigi, I nodded. He nodded to me with a smile. Now tell us, how you know Anko Mitarashi? I grinned. That's simple also. I've known Anko-chan since near the end of my second year in the academy. I met her a few months after I started training in the Forest for Death, or as I call it, my home away from home. Both Hokage and Jonin sweat dropped hearing a 15-year-old call such a place that, thinking the exact same thing, it's a male version of Anko. So Naruto, exactly what training did you do at the forest that made you so strong? Kakashi asked. Naruto smiled. My favorite game, killing the ugly mother spiders. Both Sarutobi and Kakashi's eyes bulged once again. They both knew the spiders Naruto was talking about. The deeper regions of the forest were infested with them. They ranged from the size of rats to being as big as 3 horses and build like tanks. The bigger ones' hides were so thick not even chakra-enhanced kunai could pierce them, and Naruto made a game out of killing them. Just what the hell did that fox teach him? Naruto, once again do I have to tell you just how dangerous that is? Those spiders have claimed the lives of many a shinobi, and you attack them willingly. Sarutobi yelled in shock. I shrugged. Well, technically no, they attacked me first and many times after. Eventually I just made a game out of killing them and used it as my main method of training now. See how many I can kill before I have to break off. Currently my record stands at 167 in 1 hour, I stated proudly with a smile, making both Hokage and Jonin sweat dropped again. Kami help us when he gets older, both though, as they straightened themselves out again. So Naruto, why did you want this room sealed off when Anko was brought up? Surely you could have just said you met her while training and left it at that, or is there something more? I narrowed my glare. This is where shit gets serious. There is a lot more. You remember that curse mark she once had? The Hokage's eyes narrowed at the mention of that mark, a mark that had been placed on Anko before she had been found after being taken away by his former apprentice that he had never been able to remove for study because it was so complex, but that had one day just up and vanished from her shoulder, leaving the Hokage and Jiraiya baffled about how it had just vanished. His face said he knew all about it, causing Naruto to nod. Well, I was the one that removed it, I stated openly. The Hokage's eyes widened hearing that. You removed it? Why? How? I clenched my fists. Why? Anko was my friend and still is, and that mark was causing her pain in ways that were both mental and physical. When I first found out about that damn mark, I found Anko, my only friend, on the floor of her apartment writhing in agony because of that thing, and I could do nothing but sit and watch her suffer through it. It was 10 days after that I removed it after studying it. In that time, I didn't care about removing it for study. I wanted to just stop her suffering. After that it was simple to do, I said, remembering that night and the days following as I held in my anger. But how did you remove it? Gigi asked. I calmed myself before answering. The way any curse or seal is removed, at its base if not protected properly, which that one wasn't, an injection of foreign chakra into its source to break it down and destroy it. Gigi's eyes widened. Naruto, that was extremely dangerous. Had it had the proper protections, you could have killed Anko, and his yelling was cut off by as intense wave of killing intent poured off the young blonde like nothing the elderly Hokage had ever felt in his entire life. Don't lecture me on seals, old man. I know more than you on that subject entirely. Of course I knew it was risky, but don't you dare suggest that for one moment I risked the life of someone I cared about. I analyzed that seal and I even found some of the research notes that Snake had left in his lab about it that I had taken as my own. I found in the library in the lab. I read that he had yet to apply the proper protections before he left the village. So I knew it wouldn't be on Anko's mark, and even then I knew how painful it was going to be for the pair of us doing the procedure. The chakra injection and extraction to destroy the mark is one of the most painful things I have went through in my life, but I would be damned if I was going to let my friend suffer in that nightmare that had been forced onto her by one of your students that you were too cowardly to put down. I yelled, pissed off by all he had said. How dare he? I don't give a damn if he's the Hokage or the damn sage of the six paths. I would never put my friends through such pain. The Hokage gulped under the massive pressure released I was releasing. Kakashi was on his hands and knees, breaking out in a cold sweat at the pressure flooded the room. Ims-chan was unaffected as I wasn't targeting behind me, and placed his hand on my shoulder. Naruto-sama, please calm down. I'm sure he meant no insult. She's right, partner, ease up. Slowly I did, letting the pressure dissipate and allowing Kakashi and Gigi to breathe again. Had it not been for the barrier around the office, the entire village would have just crapped itself thinking the Kyuubi was attacking again. I sighed. I'm sorry for that little outburst, but understand, friends are something I have always had in short supply of, and Anko is one of the few I consider to be one of my closest and irreplaceable friends. I would not have risked her life removing that seal unless I was entirely certain it had to go, which was made even more clear after Kurama examined the chakra at its core, I explained. Gaining back his stature, Gigi calmed himself and looked at me with a newfound respect and slight fear. What do you mean? When I extracted the chakra from inside the curse mark, Kurama was furious. The chakra was his. Orochimaru used his chakra to make that curse mark, and had it remained on Anko much longer, she wouldn't have survived past her 20th birthday. So in short, your curiosity over that mark would have cost one of those close to me their life because you wanted to study it, I said in a slight snarl. Sarutobi frowned at that and slouched in his chair with a frown, realizing they could have cost a promising Jonin their life over their curiosity. Greater good be damned, he felt like shit now. Naruto, I'm sorry. I had no way of knowing. Seals, sealing and curse marks were always your mother's and father's areas of expertise. We relied on them for that, so we were being cautious, he said with his eyes shadowed sadden at this news. I know. You couldn't have sealed it off because it was unstable, and doing so would have risked locking Anko in constant pain, and you did it all for the sake of the village, trying to figure out how it worked to fight against it should it be used against the village. It's because your reasons were just that I didn't decide to break my cover and come in here that very night I removed it and kick you all the way to Snow Country and back, I said with a raised eyebrow, releasing a small amount of killing intent, making Gigi gulp a little. I just smirked. Sarutobi nodded, understanding that Naruto had done the right thing to save his friend, but then something hit him and his eyes widened. Orochimaru has access to the Kyuubi chakra, how? I scowled. From what Kurama says, it looks like he used all he was able to gather when he discovered Kurama Den and extracted what he could from the atmosphere, and since we haven't seen any more curse marks about the place, I think we can assume he's all out. Sarutobi nodded, hoping that was the case, but then Kakashi spoke up. Naruto, how is it you know so much about Fuinjutsu? Didn't you say you learned what you could from books and you weren't very good at it, yet you were able to destroy a curse seal? I nodded. Another thing I left out on my little report. The 10 days after I first found out about Anko's curse mark was when I learned everything I could about Fuinjutsu. Utilizing my shadow clones, I perfects my skills at using it, while I used others to memorize every book the public and my own personal library had on the subject. While I spent 9 of those days in a 9-month training blitz with Kurama, who replayed me every memory my mother had of watching my father study and learn sealing and everything. So in short, I had all of my father's knowledge at my disposal as well as everything else when I mastered the art of Fuinjutsu, making me every bit as good as he was in its ways, knowledge-wise at least. I'm nowhere near his practical skill level, and why I had no second thoughts about how to remove the curse mark from Anko. Both Kakashi and Sarutobi's eyes widen. Naruto, if you have that knowledge, then does that mean you knew how to perform the Haraishin while you were in the academy? I shook his head. I wish that jutsu would have made life a lot easier. No, my mother didn't know all of my father's techniques as he kept to that one to himself, but now with the family home and clan scrolls in my possession, I should have no problem learning it. You found them then? Gigi smiled. I nodded. Yes, this morning, right before I had an untimely visit from two of the council's esteemed elders, so I never got a chance to look properly, but I intend to later. Gigi sighed. Obviously, he knew who I was talking about. I thought they would try something like that. They didn't try anything, did they? I shrugged and then snickered at the memory. Ordered me to let them in. I told them where they could shove it. Then the old crow tried to force her way in, and I gave her a reason not to try it again. Don't worry, I left her alive, though she won't be using her right hand for much for a few weeks of treatment. Gigi nodded. Thank you for showing restraint. Last thing I need is an uproar in the council about you killing off one of its members. I nodded. I'm just wondering how long it will be before I give up on reasoning and just slaughter the lot of them. Now shall we get down to business about what you wanted to talk to me about when it comes to this council meeting? You want a list of stuff to fix, don't you? Yes. I plan to start cleaning up this village, starting with all the problems the civilian council has caused. I plan to move a lot of the power away from the civilian side and restore it to myself and the clan heads. Things have gotten too lax out of wartime, Gigi sighed. I nodded again. That sounds like a good idea, I said as I took a scroll out of my pouch. There's too many to talk about, so I made a checklist of them. I tossed it to Gigi and smirked. Start at the top and work your way down through the meeting. It will take a few months to get through, so just pick out the important ones, and I'll clear up the rest by the time I take that hat from you. I ended with a grin, making Gigi smile as he put the scroll into his jacket. Hopefully there won't be that many left by the time that comes to pass. Now, you said you had favors to ask at the beginning. What they are? He smiled. I grinned. Don't worry, Gigi, I'm not going for your hat just yet. I'm giving it a few years yet. Now about those favors.